What is up, guys? This is Josh the Gamer here, coming at you with a brand new video. And in this video, we are going to be learning about gravity in 3D. That is right, we are finally moving on to 3D physics. Now, if you haven't watched the two-dimensional physics video, or videos, I will link those down in the video description so you can go and watch those, because I'm going to be talking about some of the same concepts that I talked about there. So, let's get started. So what is gravity, to start us off? Well, gravity is essentially the force that pushes on us on a daily basis, making us stay on the ground, making us fall, and so on and so forth. If there wasn't any gravity, we would all be floating around with no way of staying on the ground. We would just be floating in the air. So, today we're going to be adding that kind of functionality into a game. So, I already have a little template here. I have the same cylinder from the last tutorial, and I added a ground box. So if we go and run our game here, well, you can see that we have a blue box down there, and then we have our green cylinder up here. However, the green cylinder, we're going to move its position upwards a little bit to kind of give you a better idea of what the gravity is going to do. So, let's go ahead and get this started. First off, before we do anything with physics, we need to enable it globally. How do we do that? Well, very simple. At the beginning of your create game action, we're going to go ahead and type enable physics 3D with a capital D, and then we're going to pass it true, because this takes a Boolean value. Now, this enable physics 3D is in the game class that we're inheriting from. So as you can see here, we have our action, enable physics, Boolean flag, and then inside of that, it's calling the enable physics action within the layer 3D class, and it goes down pretty deep. So that's that. Now, if we run the game again, nothing happens. Why? Because we don't have any physics or gravity assigned to anything yet. We just turned on physics 3D globally, so it'll start doing those physics calculations. So, first things first is we need to set the position of our cylinder. So let's go ahead and cylinder set position. And then, since three-dimensional objects are automatically set to the position of 0 on the x, 0 on the y, and 0 on the z, we want to change its y coordinate. So we're not changing its x, so we're going to keep it at 0. And then we're going to have it go up to a 5 meters high. Or we're going to have it go 5 meters above what it normally would be at. And then we're going to set the z to 0, because we don't want to change that either. So, now that we have that done, we can go ahead now, and I could not find a connection. Oh, okay, I didn't spell position right. Okay, good. There we go. Alright. So now we can save it and run our game. Now, because of the game's field of view at the moment, we can't see our cylinder. That's fine, because it's above our camera's field of view. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to enable physics for these objects. But, since we don't have any gravity, it's not going to do anything yet. So let's go ahead and do cylinder enable physics true, And then we're going to do the same thing for the ground box. So ground colon enable physics, and then we're going to pass it true again. So now we have physics enabled globally and for our objects that we want to apply physics calculations to. As you can see here, nothing happens still because we don't have any gravity or anything of that nature yet. Now that we have that solved and done, we can go ahead and finally get some gravity going. So underneath where we're enabling the physics for our different objects in the scene, we need to make sure that one of these is unmovable and one of these is responsive, because we want the cylinder to land on the ground. So the ground has to be unmovable. And if you remember from our 2D physics tutorials, the different responsive states are responsive, unresponsive, and unmovable. Responsive basically means that the object will respond to physics forces such as gravity or torque or whatever. However, when we're dealing with unmovable objects, it's not going to be affected by those forces, but you can programmatically move it so it will be able to change its position in the physics world and in the non-physics world, because there are different quote-unquote worlds in there where we have the physics space and the non-physics space, that kind of stuff. And then unmovable basically means it will not respond at all to any sort of physics forces or anything of that nature, and you cannot programmatically move the object in the physics space. It'll move visually, but physics, the physics side of things, will still register that object where it is. So even though it's visually not in the same place, the physics will still stop objects from going through that particular area that it originally was at before you programmatically set its position. Make sense? I think it does, and I hope so. So let's go ahead and we're going to change the responsiveness of the cylinder. So cylinder colon set responsive, because we want the cylinder to respond to gravity. We want it to be able to fall. If it was unresponsive, it wouldn't. And if it was unmovable, it wouldn't. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and do ground colon set unmovable. So now the ground will not respond to any physics forces whatsoever, and we cannot programmatically change its position in physics space. So we're going to go ahead and save that now. And if we run the game again, nothing, because gravity has not been applied yet. So underneath where we're setting the responsiveness states, we can go ahead and then go set gravity 3D, and inside of those parentheses we're going to put we're not going to put any booleans or anything like that. We're going to set the values for the gravity force. Now, since the 3D game engine does things in meters, gravity in real life is 9.8 meters per second. So how do we simulate that inside of our 3D game code? Well, easy. For the x, we don't want the gravity to move it along the x, so we put 0. But we do want it to move along the y-axis. In this case, we want it to move down, not up. So So we're going to do a negative 9.8 and then 0. So basically, the three parameters that are being passed into the set gravity 3D are measured in meters per second. And in this case, negative 9.8 meters per second means we're going down 9.8 meters a second. So now that we have our gravity set, let's go ahead and save it and run it once again. And as you can see, the cylinder falls onto the platform and does not go through it. So guys, that is basically it for how you use gravity in 3D game physics in Quorum. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you all in the next tutorial.